If your brand isn't showing up in ChatGPT responses, you're essentially invisible to your customers. But how do you rank in a system where results shuffle every time you ask a question? Today, we're diving into a landmark study from Ahrefs that analyzed 75,000 brands and 17 million citations to find what actually works. We'll break down why YouTube mentions are the number one visibility factor, how to authentically win on Reddit, and the exact bluff structure you need for machine extraction. Let's decode the data. To master AI search, we first have to understand that we are dealing with a black box. For decades, SEOs have focused on known variables like keywords and backlinks to satisfy Google's algorithm. However, large language models like ChatGPT operate on a different set of principles. They don't just provide a list of links, they synthesize an answer from a massive corpus of data. This playbook is the result of the largest study ever conducted on this topic. By analyzing 75,000 brands and 17 million citations, we've identified the mathematical correlations between specific web behaviors and AI mentions. We aren't just guessing what works, we are looking at the data. The objective here is probabilistic visibility. Because an AI's output is never static, our goal is to increase the statistical likelihood that your brand is included in the synthesis. This requires a shift in mindset. We are no longer trying to trick a crawler. We are trying to become an undeniable part of the model's learned truth about a specific topic. This involves optimizing across the entire web, not just your own site, to ensure that when the model looks for consensus, your brand is what it finds. The most important thing to unlearn is the idea of ranking number one. In traditional SEO, if you hold the top spot, you can usually count on a steady stream of traffic. In ChatGPT, the concept of a static rank simply does not exist. Research from SparkToro highlights a startling reality. If you ask ChatGPT the same query 100 times, there is a less than 1% chance it will provide the exact same list of brands twice. The models are dynamic. They shuffle, add, and remove brands based on the specific context of the prompt and the probabilistic nature of the next token prediction. If you focus on a single ranking, you are chasing a ghost. Instead, we measure success by visibility share. If your brand was mentioned in 5 out of 100 queries last month, and through this playbook you increase that to 50 out of 100, you have effectively increased your visibility by 10 times, even if you aren't always at the top of the list. We have to embrace this fluidity. Your brand needs to be so prevalent across the model's training data and retrieval sources that it becomes a statistical necessity for the AI to mention you. We are moving away from the winner-take-all search results of the past toward a world of dynamic, multi-source synthesis. The transition from Google to AI synthesis requires a complete reevaluation of your marketing currency. For 20 years, the core currency of the web was the backlink. While links still matter for discovery, the core currency for ChatGPT is the brand mention. This includes both tagged links and untagged mentions in plain text. If people are talking about you, the model is learning about you. We also see a shift in the signal sources. Google prioritizes high domain authority websites. While these are still relevant, AI models lean heavily on what we call consensus platforms, specifically Reddit, YouTube transcripts, and niche best of listicles. These are places where authentic human opinion lives. Furthermore, the way we structure content must change. Traditional SEO content often uses long-form narratives with delayed answers to keep users on the page. AI, however, wants the bottom line up front and atomic paragraphs that it can easily extract. Finally, our vocabulary engine is shifting from keyword density to entity density. This means using proper nouns, specific brand names, tools, and products at a much higher rate than standard writing. We are no longer writing for a human who might skim. We are writing for a machine that is looking for specific facts to assemble an answer. To make this strategy actionable, we've organized it into three distinct pillars. Think of these as a hierarchy of needs for AI visibility. Pillar 1 is technical access, the gatekeeper. If the machine cannot crawl your site, you do not exist in its source data. This is the foundation. Without it, the rest of your work is invisible to the model. Pillar 2 is the consensus engine. This is where authority is established in the AI era. LLMs are effectively consensus machines. They don't inherently know which product is the best. They calculate it by seeing which brands are consistently recommended across a variety of diverse, authoritative sources like YouTube and Reddit. Pillar 3 is on-page extraction. This is about formatting your proprietary data so the LLM can physically grab it. Even if the model knows you exist, it needs to cite specific facts to prove its answer. If your data is buried in a vague paragraph, the AI will skip you and cite a competitor who made their information easier to extract. By addressing all three pillars, you create a comprehensive presence that the model cannot ignore. The biggest obstacle to AI visibility is often self-inflicted. Many brands are unknowingly blocking the very crawlers they need to attract. You must immediately audit your robots.txt file. Specifically, look for user agents like GPT-bot, which OpenAI uses for training, and OAI SearchBot, which is used for real-time search indexing. If you see a disallow command next to these names, you have effectively opted out of the AI future. Unless you have a compelling legal reason, these blocks should be removed, but it doesn't stop at robots.txt. If your site uses Cloudflare, there is a beta feature often enabled by default called Instruct AI Bot Traffic. This feature can automatically signal to AI models that your content shouldn't be used for training. The consequence of being blocked is severe. If the AI can't learn from you directly, it is forced to learn about you from third-party sources, reviews, forums, and even your competitors. You lose all control over your own narrative. You are essentially letting the rest of the internet define who you are to the most powerful search engines in history. Ensure your technical gates are wide open. How does an AI decide what is true? It looks for the intersection of diverse authoritative voices. This is what we call the consensus signal. An LLM doesn't have opinions, it has mathematical probabilities. When the model sees your brand mentioned as a top solution on YouTube, discussed as a reliable choice on Reddit, and included in multiple best of niche lists, it adopts that consensus as a factual truth. Our research shows that these three sources, YouTube, Reddit, and niche lists, form the AI truth for most commercial queries. In fact, for certain categories, best of lists alone account for nearly 50% of all citations. This means your off-site strategy is just as important as your on-site SEO. You need to identify the domains that ChatGPT already cites in your industry and work to get your brand mentioned there. You aren't just looking for links, you are looking for brand associations. When the model sees your brand name repeatedly in the same context as a high-quality solution, your probabilistic visibility begins to climb. Of all the factors we studied, YouTube mentions showed the strongest correlation with ChatGPT visibility. There is a massive transcript pipeline feeding these models. It is reported that GPT-4 was trained on over 1 million hours of YouTube transcriptions. This means that every time your brand name is spoken in a video, even if there isn't a link in the description, it becomes embedded in the model's core vocabulary. There is also a retrieval preference at play. Because text-based AI models cannot natively generate video, they heavily favor retrieving existing YouTube links when a user asks for a tutorial, a product demo, or visual instructions. To capitalize on this, you must track both tagged mentions, where you are linked, and untagged spoken mentions. Your action step is to seed your brand into this transcript corpus. This can be done by publishing your own high-quality videos or by sponsoring creators in adjacent niches. When an influencer speaks your brand name in a video, they are doing more than just traditional marketing. They are hard coding your brand into the AI's training data. You don't need mentions everywhere. You need them on the specific domains that ChatGPT already trusts. We recommend performing a gap analysis. This involves identifying the pages and domains that currently cite your competitors but omit your brand. These are your highest priority targets. When you reach out to these publications, your pitch should be data, not favors. Don't just ask to be added to a list. Instead, offer them search volume data, competitive insights, or proprietary research that makes their article better. For example, tell them your competitors have posts ranking for this term that drive X visits per month, and here is some unique data you can use to capture that traffic. If a site doesn't have a best of list for your category yet, pitch them on creating one. By inserting your brand into a source the model is already citing, you are taking the fastest path to visibility. You are piggybacking on the trust the model has already established with that domain. Reddit is by far ChatGPT's #1 most cited domain. It is the goldmine for the authentic human opinions that LLMs use to provide recommendations. However, Reddit is famously hostile to traditional marketing. If you jump into a thread and just plug your product, you will be downvoted or banned and your mention will disappear. To win on Reddit, you need a lateral PR strategy. Let's look at an example. If you are a fitness brand, a direct play would be posting a stretching routine in a fitness subreddit. That is often seen as self-promotion. A lateral play would be posting that same routine in a gaming subreddit like r/Dota2, specifically for players who suffer from back pain. This provides genuine value to a community that isn't expecting a pitch. The rules of engagement are simple. Find the threads ChatGPT already cites, answer questions based on your expertise without mentioning your product first, and build your account's reputation over months, not days. Authentic, helpful contributions are the only way to ensure your brand mentions survive long enough to be indexed by the AI. Pillar 3 is about on-page extraction. You have to understand that ChatGPT doesn't read your article like a person. It physically extracts passages to assemble its answer. Recent research into 1.2 million citations reveals what we call the ski ramp pattern. 44.2% of all citations come from the first 30% of an article. By the time you get to the final third of the page, the citation rate drops to just 24.7%. This creates what we call the bluff imperative, bottom line up front. In traditional content writing, we often set the stage with several paragraphs of context before giving the answer. In the AI era, that is a mistake. You should lead with a definitive, clear answer immediately, and then use the rest of the page to explain your methodology. If the AI finds the answer in the first 2 sentences, the likelihood of your page being cited doubles. You are making the machine's job easier, and in a probabilistic world, the path of least resistance is often the path to visibility. What makes a paragraph extractable? We've identified 4 key traits. First is entity density. Highly cited text has an entity density of about 20.6%, which is 3 to 4 times higher than standard English writing. This means you should name names, use specific brands, tools, people, and products. Second is definitive language. Phrases like X is Y or X is defined as are cited nearly twice as often as vague or subjective framing. Third is the concept of information gain. Interestingly, over half of all citations come from the middle sentence of a paragraph, where the core meat of the information usually lives. Ensure your middle sentences are packed with facts. Finally, every paragraph must have an atomic structure. This means the paragraph must make complete sense even if it is physically removed from the rest of the article and read entirely out of context. The AI is looking for nuggets of truth to assemble a larger answer. Make sure your content is organized into those distinct factual nuggets. One of the most striking findings in our data is the AI's aggressive preference for freshness. On average, the URLs cited by ChatGPT are roughly 400 days newer than the results you see on the first page of Google. Specifically, ChatGPT prefers to cite URLs that are up to 458 days newer than traditional results. In some cases, pages with zero traditional search traffic are cited thousands of times, simply because they provide the most current information. But a word of warning, you cannot fake freshness. AI models can detect when a published date is changed without substantive updates to the content. To maintain your visibility, you must perform real, deep updates. This means refreshing your statistics, updating screenshots if a software's UI has changed, and revising your competitive analysis. If the data is stale, the AI will find a newer source. In the AI era, content is a perishable good. A regular maintenance schedule for your top performing pages is no longer optional. It is a core requirement for staying in the model's citation list. The old playbook of SEO was built on volume and scale, publishing hundreds of pages to capture every possible long-tail keyword. In the AI era, this strategy is failing. Our data shows that the number of pages on a website has an extremely low correlation with ChatGPT visibility. In fact, major AI platforms are developing quality signals specifically designed to penalize content farms. The winning tactic now is originality. ChatGPT loves citing specific quantified claims from proprietary research. AI models extract facts, not fluff. Instead of publishing 10 generic how-to articles, you are better off publishing one deep dive study with original data that you own. When you provide information that doesn't exist anywhere else on the web, you create information gain that the model finds irresistible. Great content that people actually talk about also builds your brand, which, as we've seen, is the ultimate signal for AI visibility. Quality is the only scalable strategy left. These tactics are not isolated. They form a closed-loop ecosystem we call the AI visibility flywheel. It starts with Pillar 3, original data. You publish atomic, bluff-formatted proprietary research on your site. Because that data is unique and valuable, it then gets referenced organically in YouTube videos and lateral Reddit discussions, which fuels Pillar 2, amplified consensus. As your brand mentions grow across these diverse platforms, ChatGPT's crawlers, which you have ensured have access via Pillar 1, detect this multi-source validation. The model then extracts your perfectly structured atomic data to answer user queries. This leads to sustained probabilistic visibility. Each part of the flywheel feeds the next. Your on-page data drives the off-page consensus, and the off-page consensus drives the AI to cite your on-page data. By viewing your marketing through this lens, you create a self-reinforcing loop that builds long-term authority in an AI-driven world. As we wrap up, remember that ChatGPT visibility isn't a matter of luck. It is a matter of engineering. The brands that appear in AI responses are the ones that have intentionally built consensus across the web, formatted their data for machine extraction, and kept their technical pipelines open. The transition is already happening. Search is moving from a list of links to a conversation, and the brands that don't adapt will simply stop being part of that conversation. The cost of invisibility is high. While you wait, your competitors are seeding their brands into the transcript corpus of YouTube and building their reputations on Reddit. They are rewriting their content to be AI friendly. The question isn't whether you can afford to do this work. It's whether you can afford to let your competitors define the AI truth in your industry. The AI synthesis era is here. It's time to stop chasing static rankings and start engineering your visibility. Before you click away, if this video gave you one useful thing, imagine what you'd get with direct access. AI Force Multipliers is where we go deeper on everything you just watched. I bring a published neuroscience research background and enterprise SEO experience, including work with clients whose customer base covers 80 of the Fortune 100 and a former Google engineer, into practical, implementable AI automation systems you can run in your own business. We cover thousands of N8N automation templates, Claude prompt systems, GEO and AI search optimization, the Power Page process, the full stack. Members are saving 10 to 20 hours a week and showing up in AI search where their competitors are invisible. Link is in the description. The first step is free. Come see what's inside.